Hey everybody, Hayward Crawford here. I'm back with another Second City Detroit interview series coming at you. I'm here with the one and only Richard Goteri. How you doing, Richard?
Hey, Haywood, nice to see you.
Good to see you. You can go by Rich or Richard. What's best for you?
Rich is great. Yeah.
Rich. All right, Richie Rich. All right. um, all right. So Rich Goteri is the artistic director of the Second City Detroit's Training Center and conservatory program for 10 years. For the last 25 years, he has dedicated himself to the performing arts as an actor, writer, director, and teacher. As an actor, Rich is also performing in hundreds of improv shows and has appeared worldwide in over 80 plays. His TV and film credits include 61, starring Thomas Jane, Real Still, starring Hugh Jackman, Machine Gun Preacher, SNL, of course, Godfather, Comedy Institution, Silk Stockings, Set Up with Bruce Willis, just to name a few. His directing credits also include the National Touring Company, Homeless for the Holidays, and No Way Jose Canseco for the Second City. Writing credits also include, once again, NBC Saturday Night Live, Film Fest 7 with the Second City, and numerous films and plays. Rich Goteri, welcome to the Second City Detroit interview series. Glad to have you.
Well, thank you, Haywood. I think it's nice to meet you, and I'm glad that you're doing this and documenting this for people. It was a really special time for us, and it was the best time of my career for sure. I mean, I was there 10 years, and I loved every day of it. Every day of it, the best people, such a close-knit family, and such a talented bunch.
Yep, most definitely. We're gonna dive right into that here. So I just have to ask, just as a first question, just for those who are familiar with Second City, or maybe not so familiar. Obviously, SNL is a big household name. A lot of people think Second City or SCTV. They do think of, also the Canadian series. And unfortunately, we did recently lose the great Catherine O'Hara,
Yep.
who came from Second City Canadian batch up there with John Candy and
Yep.
Eugene Levy. So obviously we could talk a little bit about that. So what do you pivot, like, just off the top of your head? What do you typically tell people when they first ask you about Second City Detroit? What kind of goes through your head when they first ask you about
Well, the first thing I always say to people about they ask about Second City Detroit, how a lot of people don't know we were there. A lot of people know we were there, but when you name the talent that came out of there, then they know about Second City Detroit. You know, there's so many talented people, uh, award-winning actors, award-winning improvisers, writers. We were there in Detroit for 10. I didn't do anything with the Novi company because I started my own theater school at that time.
it? Okay.
But I was there 10 years, and in 10 years, I just think the work we did was off the chart. I mean, off the
So from
chart.
you're there from the '93 to kind of '03 era.
I was there 9 years. I was there from exactly 9.5 years. But yeah, I was there for 9 of the 10 audition processes of who we hired.
Mm-hmm.
So we hired some wonderful people, many people who know who they are now, many people, but so many people audition. We would do auditions for, 5 days straight, 6 or 8 hours a day. We saw hundreds and hundreds of people, and there were so many people that were just wonderful also that we couldn't take because, you can only take so many people. But the talent in Detroit, there is just something special about it. It is one of the most talented cities that I've ever been associated with. And I'm from New York. I lived in New York. I lived in Los Angeles, worked out of Chicago a lot. But I'm telling you, Detroit is just special.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more. So, what was it like even pre Second City Detroit? What was your improv experience at that point? What was the scene like in the late '80s, early '90s Detroit before Second City Detroit formed in '93?
Well, for me, I did improv in New York, and then I went to Los Angeles. I was doing TV and film, and National Lampoon opened there. National Lampoon Lemmings was an off-Broadway stage show, And that's where John Belushi, Chevy Chase, a lot of the Second City people from Chicago and Toronto went to National Lampoon to do their stage show. But
Mm,
they had closed for years, but they opened again in Los Angeles. So I was working there with them. I was taking classes at Second City, Los Angeles also. So when I came here, it was a different vibe, man. Because I mean, I'm from New York, which is bustling. Los
mm,
Angeles is bustling. And I remember locking up, Second City, Detroit after classes some nights and just looking at the city, there was nothing down there.
yeah.
There was no casinos. It was us, the church across the street, and the building to the right where the Fox Theater is. Other than that, like if you just looked,
Yep.
hey, there was nothing, Hayward. There was nothing. So it was crazy back then.
Second, was it second Ebenezer? That was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much that in the Fox Theater. Yep.
That was it. That was it. And the bar down in the town hall pub where we used to all go every night.
Yes.
The good old pub. And that was the thing, like everybody was so close. If because a lot of the main stage and tour company people would teach for me because I ran the training center and they were phenomenal artists, fabulous, great teachers also. But we just meet there automatically. 10 o'clock came and everybody were there, and so the bar was packed every night with teachers, students, improvisers, just hanging out, and that really helps the ensemble too of people you work with when you spend some outside time with them.
Yeah, and I think you painted such a great microcosm. I think a lot of Detroiters, even if they weren't familiar with Second City or knew about it at that time, like even for me, I'm a millennial, so I grew up in the '90s. So I still remember remnants of the Hudson Building. I still remember just when you had a lot going on downtown. Even though I was more of a teenager. So, but yeah, Town Pump Tavern, I do remember that. R.I.P. But yeah, I think a lot of people just don't realize the Detroit we have now with a new Hudson building and just so much going on. Like people don't realize,
Stadiums
like, yeah,
and
you
I
used to
mean,
have to find stuff to do. There
yeah,
wasn't like you could just walk outside and stumble upon this bar or lounge or restaurant. It was like you had to search for things to do. It was about pretty much Club Blue and about it on Woodward for a long time.
yeah, man. Like
You
there
know?
was no stadiums, there was no
Yeah.
Comerica, there was no Ford Field. I mean, there was no
Mhm.
parking lots. It was empty. It was like a war zone, quite frankly, at times.
Oh yeah, you got to be careful. The smash and grabs were real. Like even up to like the maybe mid 2010s. Like even for me, I was at Wayne State in the 2000s, and even then, like you didn't leave anything in your car.
Right.
You
I
look at
got
your
broken
car, all
into.
you saw was dust.
I, we had the parking structure that connected to Second City, and I still got broken into 3 times.
Yeah,
So I mean, it was it's
leave the
just what
doors
it was.
unlocked with nothing in there. You're pretty much better off that way.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
so break us down. Because I tend to get these are different questions. A lot of them I do ask a lot of different alums. It's interesting to get different answers. So you mentioned about like there were so many nights, 10 o'clock, you guys were there. You were the one closing up. What was a typical week like when you were, you know, in the trenches as a Second City director? Did you also perform on a house team, or were you simply kind of overseeing the whole thing?
No, I wasn't on a house team. I directed the touring company, which
Okay,
we toured all over the states, and then
okay,
the state really. But also I was in charge of the corporate theater division. So I was the head writer for corporate theater, and I was the head facilitator, which means we'd go out and teach workshops to corporations. I mean, literally all over this. We were in Bahamas, Florida, Las Vegas, New York. We went all over the place. So we did that and
okay.
then teach. So between teaching, writing, and directing, I was there 7 days a week most of the times.
Wow. So yeah, you were there just holding the fort.
Oh, I
Uh,
loved it. I loved it, man.
and what would you say, Rich, were some of your, I guess, best relationships formed out of Second City? I'm not saying you got to name names or pick favorites, but whether it was certain team members or other mentors you had, or just people you helped mentor up.
Well, John Holson, who was our stage manager there, was a big influence on me, asking me to work there really full time, pretty much full time. I mean, nobody was really full time, but except the performers. Lynn O'Kurse, who was our producer, George Bernius, Lisa Chapman, Rico Bruce Wade, Tim Hayden, who was the first person I ever met there. Those are just some of the people. But I mean, everyone, there wasn't a in the group. Everybody was sweet and nice and a team player. And I can't even and all the students. I really have not. I can't say one bad thing about one person. I'm sure I drove some of the students crazy, but other than that, I everybody was great.
Yeah, I'm sure you push them. You push them to a high standard. You know,
Pushed them a little too much, I think. I thought I was double close when I first came because I was only 28 when I got here. So I
uh,
thought I was my teaching methods have changed. But yeah, I just wanted everybody I taught to who wanted to be on main stage, who wanted to make do this for a living or wanted to get better. I believed in pushing them a little bit. Yeah.
yeah,
And
man,
I'm proud of all of them. I'm proud of all of them.
awesome. And also, too, what would you say is some of your proudest, maybe greatest favorite memories, from that era? Maybe a specific funny thing or prank or just, just in general, just being with the team and just being with those
I
comrades.
I think this is going to sound really corny, but it's for me, it's my truth is that when I came, there was nothing. There was like one level one class, and
Mm-hmm.
we had a best of show. We had nothing else. There was no corporate theater. There was no touring company. There was no training center, a real training center. We had nothing. So to see that build to, amazing talent, amazing shows, a touring company. We're doing corporate theater all over the country. Um, that we needed more space for for the training center. We started with one room, and we were at the end we had 4 or 5 rooms we're using across the street. The Illiches have a building. We were
Mm-hmm.
teaching there. We just grew it, and that's my proudest moment. That everything grew. All the artists, they all grew also, from their first main
Mm-hmm.
stage show to the last. They all gave it 100%. Just super talented people. So that's really my memory, how proud I am of everybody who worked there. And it's not even the cast. It's, I mean, literally everybody from the wait staff to the people who took the tickets and box office people. It was one big, everybody hung out together, everyone. There was no separation of like, oh, I'm an actor, or I'm a director, or I do box
Right.
office. There was none of that.
It was all a club. It was all a big,
If you were in, and
yeah.
everybody wanted to be in, I think, because it was so much fun.
It was something special. You guys just didn't even know it. I
It
think
was so special, man.
there's
No.
a good quote from and it's funny. I'm about to speak this wisdom, that borrowed wisdom. What was his name who played Andy in The Office? Ed Helms. Ed
Oh,
Helms
and
had a funny quote. Well, like a really real quote. I think it was around the Office finale, where he was like, "Man, people, I wish we could enjoy the hard times while enjoy the good times, realize we're in the good times as we enjoy them," or something like that. Maybe I butchered it up, but kind of realizing, oh,
I know what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically, that's
Just that
kind of what
everybody was working. Everybody was just working their own individual butts off.
mm,
Because everybody had the same goal of making the. I think really we wanted to stay there. We believed there was something that could stay here in Detroit. We didn't
mm,
have a lot then, and also the other thing that came out of it to me was all the branches of other improv troops like Go Comedy, like Planet Ant. Um, you know, the students started their own troops,
mm,
and I think that really helped the area also.
mm. And with that, also too, because I know obviously, just from the research I've done so far, people I talked to, Second City ran from about 93 to '07. And, during your 9 years there, what would you say were there like certain setbacks or failures or things that happened, and maybe how'd you overcame that, where obviously there were maybe some close calls where maybe the center closed, or just maybe some city zoning issues? Was there any adversity there you remember those 9 years that,
I think the biggest problem for for us at the time was that we were a partnership. We weren't like Second City, Chicago, or Toronto, where
mm,
they were the sole owners. We had partners. And I think that's when it started to go downhill, and the partners started taking more control over what we could say at times. And they took away it's to me, Second City always will be a cabaret style theater,
mm,
and which is tables and chairs. And we came in and there was 400 theater seats, which is really uncomfortable for to see improv and comedy. It just took the vibe away. So I think having partners was the downfall, honestly. But they couldn't have opened without them. So it
Mm,
was, we're lucky that I guess they were there at that time.
okay. All right, and yeah, and that kind of makes a lot of sense to where if anything, like Second City Detroit was like this little engine that could, like a scrappy little cousin. You're kind of fighting for respect from like the big Second City Chicago guys, but you're kind of like I said, fighting with one hand behind your back. You know, so obviously we kind of talked about different members that you said went on to start their own touring companies. A lot of big names that kind of came out of that, whether it's you know Antoine, I think it was Antoine McKay, Mary Beth Monroe, Rico, Tim
Wade
Robinson, Kinga Michael Key. A
Robinson.
lot of these names that you knew came
Yeah.
through there. What would be your maybe parting words? Because I know it's a different world we're in, especially since COVID, and obviously LA, Chicago, there it seems like they've been recovering since, and I feel like improv is still alive and well. So if there's anybody inspiring to get involved, whether they want to get involved on performing or maybe on the behind the scenes side, what would be some advice for them if they're looking to get involved and pretty much do what you did, go down your path.
I think train, I'm big on training. I think, take some classes, understand the basics and get out there as much as you can, because that's how you get better is performing in front of a live audience. And yeah, I think training is everything in the beginning, especially and because there's a technique to how to do it. And I think that has to be taught, and I think the great improvisers then make it their own. But I think everybody should just and the thing about improv, honestly, it's like it's for everybody. It's not even like you don't even have to start a troupe. I think improv is great for kids and adults and corporations and business people and just, the yes and principle of, being in agreement and adding your own take is something that is works for anybody. So I just think improv training is just great for anyone.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It could be used in a lot of different facets, and like you kind of mentioned, it's definitely been a great way to tour, see the world, but then also like share those principles and whatnot. You never know who you're going to impact. It's funny. One of the actors in a short film I did a few years ago. He's a few years younger than me, in his probably like mid 30s. But I think he was part of like he had the opportunity in high school to be part of like one of the last like high school summer camps or something where there's a high school trip to the Second City, Detroit. So this may have been like in '07, '08, or '09, something like that, So you just never know. And he's still kind of, doing work, acting work, theater work today, So you just never know who you're going to impact with that. Speaking of
Well,
which, I
that's what
got
happened with me. That's
yeah.
what happened with me. It was Saturday Night Live, and it was I went to see Second City in Toronto,
Mm,
and
mm,
I was just after I said those two things, I wanted to be John Belushi. I love that guy,
mm.
and that was just like I want to do that, and it just worked out that I was in the right place at the right time to actually do that.
There you go. All right, as we wrap up here, once again, Rich Goteri, if you want to tell us about some things you have coming up, new projects, shows, plays, where people watching this interview can find you on social media, just anything you got coming up you would like to share the audience, with.
Yeah, I have my own acting academy, Goteri Creative Arts, and we teach improv and acting and writing, and that's just GoteriCreativeArts.com. Personally, for my acting, I have a couple of movies coming out. Hopefully, we do some of those Lucy shows that we were talking about. I do an I Love Lucy show with a couple of people, a tribute show. We tour all over the place doing that. I love doing that. And yeah, you can find me on social media just at Rich Goteri.
Okay. Or all right, I'll make a note of that, and we'll put all your bio and information in the show notes as well. This will be uploaded on my YouTube channel, and like I said, as we keep growing things out, I definitely also post this on my socials. So this is a question I actually came up with recently. I know Rich, you're big on like, hey, just throw it at me. This is improv, is what we do. So my last question, which I'm going to start asking every alum, so I'm not just going to pick on you, but if somebody or someone or somebody, if they were to bring back or open back up a new Second City Detroit downtown, new venue, stage independently, what would your thoughts be? Do you feel like they could capture lightning in a bottle again? Do you feel like, hey, if alumni come in and they get some buy-in and help, I'm all for it? Or do you think like, hey, we should just, you know, It's hard to, level
I
up what we
I
did
think
before.
I think if they have to partner with the right people, I think that would be everything. But let's just say everything was 100% in that direction. I'd be all for it. And oh yeah, I would love to work there. I mean, I just love working there, and I still do some stuff for them once in a while. But and for the people who I used to work with. But yeah, it's the best. It's 100% behind it. Yeah. I think it's great for anybody, and let's not forget the audiences. The audiences love it, so that's important when people can forget their troubles for 2 hours.
Hmm.
It's nice.
There you go. All right. Well, you heard it here first. Second City Detroit comes back. Rich will definitely be
Let's go.
one of the first ones in line
Let's go.
to make it happen again. All right, Rich, thank you so much for joining me on this series of Second City Detroit interview series. So I will keep bringing this to my YouTube channel as well as my socials. And yeah, we're just trying to get the word out about bringing this Second City Detroit story to light. There's a lot of docu series out there that something that do a lot similar. There's Fat Tuesdays that talked about kind of the Black '90s LA scene. Goteri, I believe, was a helm on that. That's on Amazon Prime. You also got the Comedy Store. They did a docu series. I remember they dropped that during COVID. I think it's on Hulu, Showtime. I think it's currently on Paramount Plus. So just putting that
There's
out
tons.
there that I think it's
You
time
have
Second
to.
City Detroit. We need that story told about Second City Detroit.
I think so too. And so many of our guys who went on to, work at Saturday Night Live and you know, Mad TV, just things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible if people out there want to do it, they can do it. I was lucky because like I when I was in New York, is I got my union card from doing a couple of parts on Saturday Night Live, and then I was a contributor once in a while. I could get stuff in there,
Mm-hmm.
and but if people want more than that, they want to really beyond the show, or they want to learn more. I think it's doable. I think people just have to get out there and get out of their comfort level and try, just try, and start by training and getting out there and starting a troop.
Yeah. All right. Well, you heard it here first. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Once again, Rich Goteri from Second City, Detroit, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.